Welcome to another Music Talk Tuesday. And today I thought it would be interesting to dive into something that I haven't really touched upon, but I think it's a very deep and I think probably what's might considered a sort of dark subject matter. But I like diving into things that are on the a little bit uncomfortable side, um, only because I think it helps people sort of see the light in things, um, and sort of see various struggles that people have gone through. And a large part of that is through the concept of addiction. So I'm going to be discussing songs that address this topic. So without further ado, let me start off with um, Black Balloon by Goo Goo Dolls. Now, this song, not only did it come out during the 90s, but it seemed to be one of um, the more, I guess you could say, memorable, or at least from what I could tell, it was played for a significant amount of time, I believe, on the radio. Maybe not as much now, but um, what I do really enjoy about the song is that it provides a very interesting perspective. Because usually the songs that involve this kind of a topic usually do it through the perspective of the person who is suffering the addiction. But here it is the lover of the person who is addicted that is sort of narrating or telling us the sort of story. Basically, the story that this song presents is of a woman who is uh, dependent, or I guess you could say addicted to heroin, hence the black balloon, because when you have a black balloon, you tie it around and that allows you to, do that uh, thing. And basically, that's where the title comes from. Um, and basically, um, the lover obviously doesn't really approve of her behavior, um, and wants to bring out a better path for her. But as you sort of see throughout the song, that path is sort of um, hopeless because she is too far in as far as a whole is concerned when it comes to her addiction. She just can't get out. So there is this sort of very tragic way the song approaches it, and it has sort of this irony too, because there is this sort of beauty to it, but then there's also this very kind of dark, not necessarily sinister, but very kind of um, lonesome and intoxicating at the same time kind of a feeling, and it really kind of highlights the, I think, addiction aspect really well on an instrumental level. And what I think it also really addresses really well is the concept of how when you put your life into that kind of position where you're so dependent on something, then you lose out the things that kind of truly matter in life. And I think this is really how this song kind of displays itself. It's trying to be a tragedy, and in the same way of being a tragedy, it's trying to bring to light to people the importance of looking beyond um, addiction, and not to get trapped in this kind of a world because you're unable to get out. And I think also the way the music video showcase also has some very interesting imagery too, which I think people can get a lot of different things out of. But overall, it is very powerful. It's very moving. It's one of those songs where I feel like it really just nails what um, what somebody on the outside probably feels like looking into this kind of world that the person who is having the addiction is living in. Um, and I think it ultimately really works, and it does really highlight this point of how, you know, the how this real dependence can lead to actual death, and can ruin any kind of light and contribution uh, that the person could make. Because I think the lover does, throughout the song, you do kind of feel like he sees the potential in this woman and in this person, but she just suffers this horrible addiction and she can't get over it. So it's really, I think it's just beautifully crafted and really highlights the dark and um, very real nature of this kind of a addiction. And I think a lot of people were in particular moved by this song, as was I, even though I've never experienced anything like that in my life at all. But I still find it to be very poignant in what it's saying. And I think it can even be implied in a general sense. I think sometimes maybe we have certain habits that may not be necessarily as healthy for us. And, we get so attached to that habit we don't break it. And I think the song is trying to tell you what you're kind of missing out uh, by staying in this sort of world of habits. And although this is very specific to addiction, um, it can be applied, I think, in a variety of ways. But um, even though it is specific to this specific storyline, and I think it's brilliantly done. Really well done song. I think actually one of the more underrated songs actually from the Goo Goo Dolls. So I think it's definitely recommendable if you are sort of interested in kind of the pop sort of rock 90s genre. Like if you like that, you will, I think, gravitate towards this song in particular. Moving on to the next song. Um, It's Been a While by Stained. I think this is another one that was sort of a big hit when it came out. So this one is interesting because unlike the previous song where it's through the perspective of an outsider kind of looking in to an addict's world, this one is um, this one is through the perspective of the addict, but he's sort of looking back onto his life when he was addicted, and now he's not in that state anymore. So he's kind of shifting gears because I think there's a part of him that's sort of really haunted by this past that he has, and that's clearly showcased in the lyrics, as well as um, through the sort of instrumentals that occur. Um, the interesting thing about this song too, unlike the previous song where it kind of has a more mellow yet very sort of um, kind of uh, lost and lone, it just has this feeling of loneliness and feeling kind of lost and out of place. This song really does nail in the angst, and um, and I think that angst has a large part to deal with guilt, sort of being angry with yourself that you stooped so low, um, and feeling like you can't, you know, um, break from that life that you once had because it's always kind of there in sort of the back of your mind. Um, and he sort of says that by saying like, it's been a while since I could hold my head up high, and it's been a while since I said I'm sorry. So I think it does really try to really emphasize how it's really something that sticks with you. This whatever addiction you end up having, it really does kind of carry throughout your life. And the interesting thing, though, is it tries to kind of insert a sort of a lover, or at least from what I could tell, um, and by saying like, um, you know, that past life kind of, it kind of vanquishes when I'm with you, so to speak. Like your love sort of takes away that pain and that guilt, um, and sort of anger and frustration. So I think that's really what makes this song stand out. It's very kind of direct in its approach by saying, it's been a while since I've been in this state, but it still kind of lives with me. Um, and I think that's really something that's very identifiable. And a lot of people actually really got behind this song. And it was interesting because the um, person singing the song actually received so much fan mail talking, and they were all like stories of all of these different people who've gone through similar issues. And he says he was just so overwhelmed by all of the various stories that he heard, that he kind of couldn't, you know, be kind of in the spotlight as a result, because the whole just hearing everybody's story, it was just too overwhelming, I guess, for him. So it just goes to show to you how powerful music is. It's unbelievable. Like, I think people really do undermine music's ability. Like, it's just so resonant onto people, and this song really did draw people, and I think it really brought out what people felt during when facing these kinds of dilemmas within their life. And being able to kind of share your story to somebody who sort of expressed what you were feeling, I think really is something that's powerful, and really something that I think is really admirable. So it's definitely, I think, a song worth recommending. This one is a little more has a little bit more of a rock edge to it. So if you like some very hard chords in there, like they really try to jam down. they try to rock and roll, even though the guy who's singing is only using an acoustic. Everybody else around him is just plowing away. So it is really an interesting blend the song offers, because at times it's quiet, and then when the angst comes in, it really emphasizes the sort of points that are made throughout the song. So definitely recommendable, in my humblest opinion. Next one that I'm going to be discussing is Semi-Charmed Life by Third Eye Blind, another 90s song. Now this one is rather interesting because it's similar to the first song in that it is more specific as far as the drug involved, and if you watch Breaking Bad, you will know what drug I am talking about. It's mentioned within the lyrics of the song, but basically, this song is full of irony because it sounds so unbelievably upbeat. This song, it just makes you feel like you're like, I'm on a cloud, ha ha ha, it's so fun. But but when you really look at the lyrics, you go, wow, this is dark. Like, at first, when I was trying to do research for this video, I thought, how can this be in any way, shape, or form? And then I read the lyrics, I'm like, oh, okay. So yeah, there is a lot of dark undertones, despite its upbeat nature. So basically, unlike the previous songs where it was through an outsider's perspective or through the addict's perspective, um, after the sort of addiction stage, this song sort of takes place during the addiction stage. So this person, the narrator, is, he is in that zone and in that hole, and he really wants to get out. He does not want to be there, but he can't because he's addicted. Uh, so that's really the heart of the song, and a lot of the reason why he wants to get out is because he wants to be with the one person that he loves and cares about. But as his addiction gets deeper, the more that person drifts away from him. So it's really trying to highlight how how much it can just push people further and further away from your life. Um, but I think the reasoning for the irony sort of within the song is to show you how unbelievably how unbelievably crazy an addiction can kind of be, and you're kind of all over the place. And I think this is really what this song was trying to convey, is the sort of, I guess you could say, uh, sort of a emotional state of of the um, the person, because on the one hand he is trying really really hard um, to let go of this, but he is just so unbelievably incapable of doing so because of the addiction. So it's like he's being kind of tossed around, and it feels almost schizophrenic in a way. It's very like do 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 do. It's really all over the place, but it is to highlight how an addiction is. And I think this song really highlights it well, and how it's, you are not, there. You probably, you're just not in a normal state. So I think that's really what makes this song rather unique. And I think a lot of people can, um I think even though they, initially as a casual listener of this song, like I just always thought it was just a fun song, and just kind of just upbeat, and just kind of simple. But when I really look into it, there is a lot more of a deeper and interesting kind of um, meaning behind it, or meanings, I guess you could say. So it's definitely, I think, recommendable if you enjoy this kind of a style. It is a little bit more like the first song as far as I think its genre. It has this 90s rock sort of identity to it, but uh, it's interesting because it's a lot more upbeat and and full of kind of irony to it. So definitely recommendable. Second to last song that I'm going to mention on this list is "Hate Me" by Blue October. Yeah, yeah, this song. I mean, it's usually not a title that you have for a song, but this one is very. This song tries to penetrate the core, because it actually it's interesting because the song actually starts out with a recording of somebody talking, and it's supposed to be the voice of the narrator's mom. And I think it's supposed to sort of highlight how the narrator is sort of distant from his mother. And the reasoning being is I believe the actual singer of the song, and I believe he also plays an instrument throughout it as well. I think it's some sort of guitar. But basically, um, he wanted to, I guess, write this song sort of uh, as sort of a very personal story. So this is a very kind of real, you know, life experience, so to speak. Whereas the previous songs were just kind of more storytelling. I don't think there was really any indication, as far as from what I could tell, that these songs were written based on an actual personal event. And this is sort of a personal story. And I guess he's not only suffered addiction, but I believe he was also bipolar, and you know, he had a lot of family problems, and on top of the addiction, it just made it a whole lot worse. And you know, as a result, he isolated his mother and the people around him, and he sort of, I guess, had a kind of breaking point. And on the one hand, he just has this huge, massive guilt within him that he feels like that his mother isn't sort of, I guess, worthy of his love and affection, despite the fact that she sticks with him even when he is messing up. Uh, and so it's really interesting because he's really kind of just talking literally directly to his mom and just telling her to hate him for all the, you know, horrible things that he's done with his life. Um, and I think it's because only out of the because I think there is a sense that you can tell that he really does love his mom, and it's almost like when he's saying hate me, he's almost like saying I love you so much. I want you to hate me for how horrible of a person I've been to you. So I think that's kind of really the essence that this song was trying to grasp, like how an addiction can just tear people apart from one another, and how you feel like you can't really um, go back to maybe having that strong bond or that relationship because of this huge uh, weight that is sort of carried with you throughout your life. Um, so I think that's really what it was trying to get at as far as addiction is concerned. Like that um, there's this hole that happens when it's digged by someone's addiction, and there's and then as a result, you know, kind of a hole in your heart, and it's really difficult to fully heal from it. And in doing so, you feel like that the people around you are just not um, they're just not they sh- they shouldn't love you for the person that you are because of the mess ups that you made. Um, but yeah, it feels very raw. There's something very real, I think, that people can grasp onto. It does have a similar sort of angst that exists within the Stained song. Um, but at the same time, there is this sort of sadness and this kind of inability to, um, I guess, really cope with the amount of pain that exists when dealing with someone that is in this kind of a state. So I think that's really what the song is trying to encapsulate. It's very interesting. It's not to say that you have to I I guess really sympathize with the narrator. You have to, I think you can take this song and sort of interpret it in however way you wish or see fit. But I think this song in particular does show you the amount of power and pain that comes through um, dealing with dealing with these kinds of problems. So, without further ado, let me address the last song. Now, this one is actually a little bit more upbeat than you would think. So, this song is called One Day at a Time by Joe Walsh, who's from the Eagles band. And in case you youngsters don't know who the Eagles are, they, I believe, existed within the 70s, if I'm not mistaken. Probably within the 80s too, but around that era from what I can remember. Joe Walsh basically wrote this song, and it's about learning, it's basically him sort of learning how to sort of live one day at a time without his addiction, which in this case was a multitude of things from drugs to alcohol. So that's really what this song tries to showcase. And the interesting thing is that it does it in a very upbeat way. And I think the reasoning behind that is when you listen to the lyrics, he talks about how he actually got help from somebody, like he actually reached out to somebody, unlike a lot of these songs where the people don't reach out to other people anymore, or at all, they just try to push it aside. But he actually reached out to somebody. He kind of realized, yeah, there's a problem, and I need to get some help here. And it made his life all the better. And I think that's really what he was trying to showcase, that, it's okay to reach out to somebody. You'll be a lot better for it, if you don't push people away. And I think this is really a theme that's been highlighted throughout all of these songs. If you are having any problems, don't push people out of your life. That's what fuels the addiction, and what fuels even loneliness. Even if you're not dealing with an addiction, if you just push yourself and further away from people that could actually help you and make an impact on you in your life, then the more then I think the more miserable life ends up becoming. And I think this song really does show you like how you need to reach out to somebody, and as a result, he's living sober free one day at a time, and I think, sort of reaching out to someone made him realize how important life is, and how important it is to keep going, and to not give up, and sort of have this optimism to things, instead of trying to fulfill some kind of need through addiction. So it is a very simple song, but at the same time, it's still a lot of fun and has this sort of old-timey, sound that you would come to, I guess, expect from the Eagles. But yeah, those are all of the songs that I wanted to address when it comes to this particular topic. But if there are any questions, comments, concerns, I'd be more than happy to answer them. I will be sure to put all the songs below so that you may enjoy them. But yeah, I think that's really ultimately all I can say. But until next time, everybody.